Okay, so those have been the top headlines over the course of the week. But in today's show, we're looking to cover a lot of things. We'll be joined by Mr. Rajesh Palve on the technicals, and he'll be sharing his top bets and the index levels to watch out for the week to come. Other than that, we'll also be taking a look at all the important events that shaped up the week that we saw and helped Nifty end in the green. You also have an expert, Aditya Shah's market strategy. He'll be joining us to share his outlook on the fundamentals too. And most importantly, now that we are full-fledged in the earnings season, everything that you need to know about the major Nifty earnings and the other big earnings in the week to come will also be on our radar today. So much to talk about. Let's start by taking a look at what the markets have done in the week gone by. Overall, it was largely a good week of trade coming in, a good move coming in for the Nifty. No doubt it had its own ups and downs in the week that went by. But other than that, also, it was a good move coming in for the Nifty. On a week-to-date basis, up about 1%. If you take a look at the broader end of the market, they've continued to be consistent outperformers versus the benchmark, and good move coming in for the Nifty Midcap Index, up 3.5% on a week-to-date basis. The Small Cap Index did really well and outperformed the overall breadth of the market. The Nifty Midcap Index is at is continuing to gain for 2 straight weeks now, as is the case with the Nifty. But the small cap index, it's the third continuous week of gain coming in. If you talk about the top sectoral gaining, top weekly sectoral gainer, it's the defense pack. Good moves coming in from some names like Apollo Micro, that on Friday got the government license to manufacture its own ammunition. So positive news flow over there. Apollo Micro did well. Paras Defense has led to that. On the flip side, the only sector that has ended the week in the red is the Nifty Auto space, and that was led lower by some names like Eicher Motors and Hero MotoCorp. Other than that, all in all, it's been a good week for the market. Nifty Metal, Realty, they advanced for the third consecutive week too. Nifty FMCG was a sector to watch out for on Friday. Quite the outperformance on that index, and that also advanced for the second straight week, with Radico Khaitan and Varun Beverages gaining the most from that basket on a week-to-date basis. Nifty IT continued to advance. It was led ahead by OFSS and Coforge, and IT index has also now registered its biggest gaining streak since July of 2024. 5 consecutive sessions in the green, looking good for the IT index. And Nifty Pharma too looked good. Like Harsh was mentioning earlier, BSE listed companies added market cap of 14 lakh crore this week. It's a significant amount given the kind of volatility the market has already been dealing with in the past few weeks, barring the last week where we've had some optimism in terms of the ceasefire talks. We're expecting that to play out going ahead as well, at least basis comments from Donald Trump in the days gone by. So yes, the setup, at least for the next week, looks optimistic. While that is all on geopolitics and fundamentals back home in terms of how earnings will shape up, that is also going to be a major trigger to watch out for. But other than that, what are we expecting on the technicals? What are some levels that you can watch out for? Let's welcome on board Mr. Rajesh Palve, Head of Technical and Derivative Research at Axis Securities, joining us. Rajesh, thanks so much for your time today. Good to be chatting with you. It's been a while. Give us your outlook on where the Nifty is seen to be heading in the weeks, in the next week at least to come. Given that we've managed to close this week in the green, are we expected to do the same next week? Is that what the charts are indicating?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So it's a week of optimism, and we have seen the sentiment has improved quite a lot throughout the week. Broader market has performed well. Bank Nifty almost registered a gain of around 1.5% for this week. This is the third consecutive week where Nifty is making higher high-low formation, which is a sign of sustained buying action. Nifty managed to cross major call concentration area of 24,200 on a weekly closing basis. Looking at the technical formation, a very strong bullish Moribozu candle on a weekly chart, which is a sign of very strong buying action took place throughout the week. We believe that, at this juncture, Nifty is now negotiating with its 50-day moving average, which is placed at around 24,400 mark. Any breakout above these level can trigger further more short covering action and then possible extension of rally towards 24,600, 700 we may see in the coming week. So overall sentiment trend has changed on the bullish side. So buy on decline should be your strategy. Till Nifty is holding about 24,100, one should remain on the long side of trade. Again, the similar kind of structure for the Bank Nifty also, as Bank Nifty managed to surpass 56,000, 56,200 major call concentration area. So I think here also we may see a buying interest to remain continue. Once Bank Nifty manages to cross above 56,800, here also we may see furthermore short covering action to play out, and then Bank Nifty may scale up to the target of 57,500. So here also one can buy and accumulate till Bank Nifty is trading above 56,000 level.
Hi Rajesh, very good afternoon. Rajesh, what's the sector bias like? Give us a sense of that first, and thereafter the stock bias as well. Specific calls for next week.
Yeah, definitely. So, lot many sectors have done well throughout the week. But again, if we look at the where risk to reward is in favor from the sector, FMCG basket is looking quite interesting, and most of the stocks now, after a long consolidation, are giving a breakout on the near-term, short-term chart. So one can focus on FMCG basket, but the sector where the momentum is still continue on the bullish side are metal and capital goods. These two sectors are looking more promising in terms of momentum, and I think here momentum may extend further as still at a higher level also buying interest is there. So these three sectors where we are focusing at this juncture. And one more theme which has done well in this week is EMS stocks are also showing sign of buying interest. So here also one can focus on to go long. Now moving to the stocks where we are, recommending at this juncture is first one is PNB Housing Finance. If we analyze the structure, stock moving in upsloping channel on daily as well as on the weekly chart, stock is comfortably holding about to all its near-term, short-term moving averages. Looking at the breakout on a daily, weekly time frame, we believe that this stock has potential to extend gain. 945 where we are projecting target. One can keep a stop loss of 915. Second stock is Mazgaon Dock. Here we have witnessed a breakout of falling wedge formation. This is the third consecutive week where stock is making higher high-low formation, and the kind of buying interest throughout the week was there in this counter. Long built-up is there. So we are projecting target of 2750 in the continuation of this up move. One can buy and accumulate with stop loss of 2575.
Okay, so those are some of the stocks that are looking good to Rajesh, PNB Housing, and the other stock that Rajesh mentioned, Mascot Dock. But let's shift focus and take it across to my colleague Raghav, who's joined us with everything that made headlines in the week gone by. Raghav, over to you.
Well, absolutely, Sneha. It was a good week for the markets. Nifty was up 1.3% on a week-to-day basis. Broader markets outperformed the larger segment. Nifty Defense was a top sectoral gainer with 6.3% up, which was 6.3% up, and Nifty Auto was a top sectoral loser, which is down about 0.8%. Well, certain news that came in was the inflation data. CPI, India's March retail inflation has risen to 3.4% from 3.2% on a month-on-month basis, led by flood inflations. On the WPI front, India's March WPI surged to 3.88% versus 2.13%. The month-on-month was led by crude and petroleum, natural gas inflation in that sense. IMD's monsoon announcement also came about. It released its first estimates for 2026 southwest monsoon. India's 2026 southwest monsoon rainfall is to be below normal, and hence we are expecting certain impact on the agricultural front as well. Big earnings came about this week. Wipro had a mixed set of results. Growth was weak at 0.2% on QOQ basis. At Q1 FY27, guidance was also trimmed to -2% to 0% for them. ICICI Prudential did well earlier in the week. SDFC Life had a mixed set coming from them. VNB margins saw YOY moderation. Angel One and VST industry saw strong Q4 driven by client addition for them. Certain commentary that came about from the US President Trump, he stated that Israel, Lebanon have announced a 10-day ceasefire, which is in effect. He's also inviting these two warring parties to Washington. He stated that he has solved 9 wars. This is 10th war solving in that sense. Also, he claimed that Iran has agreed to not develop nuclear weapons. Commentary from Iran is still awaited on that front. He's also said that they have agreed to hand over the nuclear dust. Global markets saw a limited reaction to this commentary. And in India, export themes like chemicals, fertilizers, and seafood stocks did well on the last day of trade. This was what happened in the week that was.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Raghav. Rajesh, those defense stocks, frankly, they were up and away in trade this week, and in particular Apollo Micro, Zentech, they've got these approvals for manufacturing of ammunition. Now, I know you don't cover the fundamental side of things, but give us the technical side. What changes on charts given the kind of move we've seen in defense?
Yeah, most of the defense stocks have done well throughout the week, and there is a continuity of buying interest since last couple of week in this counter. Apollo Micros managed to give breakout of a long consolidation on the weekly chart. If we analyze almost last 3 4 month range breakout is took place in this counter. Looking at the breakout, we believe that if now stock continues to hold about 270 zone, I think the next upward trajectory we may see towards 310 to 315 for Apollo. Again, Zantech, after almost 6 month, price consolidation breakout took place for this counter. And looking at the breakout on weekly, monthly chart, we believe that till stock is trading above 1600 mark, I think next target in the near term, short term, we could see towards 1700 to 1750. So here also one can go for long side of trade. As I've already covered, Mazgaon Dock and Cochin Ship, these two stocks are also looking promising. So overall, this basket is showing sign of buying interest from the lower level, and continuity of uptrend is clearly visible in most of the stock. So I think one can keep trailing the stop loss, and we could see another leg of upward rally in the coming week also.
Okay, so that's the outlook on some of those defense names. Rajesh, on that note, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for your time and for your views today. Thank you so much. Okay, viewers, on that note, time to slip into a very short break. We've spoken about everything that shaped the week that was. Next up, when we come back, we're going to be looking at everything you need to be watching out for in terms of earnings, global macros, and some other events to watch out for next week. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Trump's comments. Then you had the inflation number that came in back home, both on the CPI and WPI, that saw an uptick, and so much else to watch out for in terms of the earnings that we've seen the week gone by. Some names like Angel One, Wipro, all of those names were in focus. But let's also now throw the spotlight on what to expect going ahead from the market in terms of earnings. Let's welcome on board Mr. Aditya Shah, founder at Hercules Advisors. He's joining us right now. Aditya, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. Give us a sense on what your thoughts have been on the limited earnings that we've seen so far, and more importantly, given that the week to come now is going to be slightly heavier on the banking space, what is your view on how those earnings could shape up?
Steady set of numbers, good numbers from TCS, not so great from Wipro. That was the week on by HDFC Life reported steady set of numbers. In HDFC AMC also reported a steady set of numbers. But tomorrow is a big day where HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, the big guns of Nifty report numbers. And I feel that those numbers will also be steady set of numbers. Nothing to complain about as such. Asset quality will remain stable. Loan growth and deposit growth will also be really very stable. So from my perspective, asset quality is something that I'm watching out for. Guidance this quarter asset quality, as well as guidance over next few quarters, as the war lingers on. Many SMEs are in deep pain. So those are the things that I will watch out as the result season moves on and the banking sector continues to give their result.
Okay. Hi, Aditya. Good afternoon. So that's the take with regard to banks. But really, let me take a step back. What is it that you're buying in a market like this?
So domestic facing economy stocks continue to be my top picks. Chemicals, cap goods, then after that banking. Those are the really top picks that are there. And individual companies where a lot of correction has really happened. Those are the picks. Mind you, over the last 1.5 year, valuations were a problem. They are still a problem, but less of a problem. They have corrected and they have come back to a decent level where you can at least look at some stocks.
Chemicals, Aditya, what within cap goods? Where's the bias?
So, of course, in chemicals, many companies have declared force majeure due to the non-availability of gas, as well as steep increases in raw materials. Something like a Deepak Nitrite or something like Navin Fluorine. These are all companies which will face short-term pain as the problem lingers on of the war. However, longer term, these companies are really very good companies where these companies will come back as once this problem subsides with respect to the war.
Okay. And Aditya, you did mention that you're bullish on inward-facing sectors, domestic sectors. What about FMCG on that note? On Friday, good move coming in across the index. We are hearing some reports of price increases being taken, and quarter four is also largely expected to be steady in terms of volume growth, at least for some of the top performers. What's your outlook on FMCG?
FMCG again a defensive sector, but the valuations continue to remain aggressive across many of these companies. You cannot be buying a company which is growing at about 5 to 10% with respect to volume at about 60, 65, 70. ITC, for its own reasons, has seen a correction, and I would look at ITC. But other than that, FMCG companies continue to remain really very expensive. I would tend to be cautious on the sector.
Okay. Aditya, what's the take with regard to defense at this point? You know, there seems to be a couple of structural shifts which are playing out, especially in ammunition manufacturing. And some of these small companies, we spoke with the Paras yesterday. Today we saw Apollo Micro buzz 16% on the back of that manufacturing approval they got. Zentech is the other one. Again, these are good quality, small defense companies. But maybe one doesn't fully grapple or one doesn't fully understand how valuations should be looked at for some of these companies. How would you look at it?
So defense is an evergreen sector until the world is ridden with war. Uh, countries will continue to invest in defense equipment. All these companies have a long, long headway to go. However, valuations across most of these companies are really very expensive. For example, a Zentek trading at about 40 to 60 times multiple is really not too cheap. It has already seen a 50% correction, and if growth slows down, it will see further correction if that really happens. So from my perspective, I'm cautious on the defense sector. The growth opportunity is huge, but the valuations don't accrue investments as of.
Okay, so that's your take coming in on a bunch of those sectors as well as the defense space. Aditya, thanks so much for your time today. Good to be chatting with you.
Thank you.
Okay, viewers, let's move on. And while that's the outlook on what the sectors or some of the stocks that are expected to do well in the weeks to come, let's throw the spotlight on the next week, upcoming week, and the important events that you need to be keeping a note of and tracking very closely back home as well as globally. Let's take it across to Meryl for that.
Here are the important cues to watch out for in the week ahead of us. Starting first with India, the focus remains on HSBC manufacturing PMI as well as forex reserves data. Globally in the US, the Fed enters its communication blackout period starting from the 18th of April ahead of its April policy meeting. Similarly, in the UK, the focus will be on CPI inflation data, while Eurozone as well will be releasing its consumer confidence, and the ECB enters a quiet period ahead of its policy meeting. Asian cues include China's loan prime rate decision coming in on the 20th of April, and also key Japan data including trade numbers, followed by Japan's CPI and services PPI on the 24th of April. We've got quite the earnings heavy week coming ahead of us, both on global as well as the Indian markets front, so do watch out for that. But apart from that, next week seems like a heavy weight on earnings, global inflation cues, and so volatility could be one important factor to watch.
Okay. All right. So that's the take coming in terms of cues. But let me go across to Rabinder because plenty of earnings to watch out for. You'll have some Nifty heavyweights come out with numbers, Bank Nifty as well. So you'll see some moves on some of those indices. Rabinder here with all of the stocks you want to keep on your radar.
Well, as 8 Nifty 50 companies are set to announce their Q4 FY26 and FY26 earning between April 18 to April 24, 2026. So let's look at how the street is estimating this number. Firstly, let's start with HDFC Bank, where a steady quarter is expected after strong growth numbers with a PAT likely to grow 8% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about the ICICI Bank, then ICICI Bank also a stable quarter is expected with consensus estimating a 5 basis point fall in NIMS, loan growth of 4% on a sequential basis, and deposit growth is expecting around 3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. If we talk about some of the IT companies, there HCL Tech is also set to announce their quarterly result on April 21, and a soft quarter is expected with constant currency revenue likely to decline 1.7% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. And from the FMCG space, on 21st April, Nestle India is set to announce their quarterly earnings, and another strong quarter is expected with a volume seen around 9 to 11%, and all segment except meals and nutrition likely to perform well, while margins may decline due to higher employee expenses. And another IT stock, Tech Mahindra 2, is set to announce their quarterly earnings on April 22, and a stable quarter is expected with revenue likely to remain flat on a sequential basis. SBI Life Insurance, then moderate growth is expected for SBI Life Insurance, with VNB growth of approximately 7% on a yearly basis and APE growth of 12% on a year-on-year basis. If we talk about the Infosys, then a soft quarter is expected with revenue likely to decline 1% on a quarterly basis due to lower billing days and seasonal weakness. And lastly, Shriram Finance is also set to announce their quarterly and FY26 earning on April 24, 2026, and Street is estimating a moderate quarter with Q4 AUM is likely to grow at 15% on a yearly basis, while NIM is expected to remain largely flat on a sequential basis.
Okay, Ravinder, thanks for taking us through that. So that's all the important Nifty earnings lined up in the week to come and what to expect from that. But up next, an exclusive roundup of the week's key developments from Maharashtra in our Maharashtra 360.